Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for coming back to Listening In, the National Counselling and Psychotherapy Society podcast. In this series, we want to give you the opportunity to listen in to some of the conversations that we are lucky enough to have every day. That is, with a variety of people and organisations all working in the field of mental health and well-being. Today it gives me great pleasure to welcome another guest from Northern Ireland. Pamela Kirkpatrick is a practitioner, trainer, and the co-founder of the NCPS Recognised Counselling Service, uHub. As well as dedicating her working day to uHub, Pam, along with her colleague Cara, invest considerable time and energy into their community. And importantly so, because this is a community that continued to bear the bruises from its history. The impact of generational trauma meant it ran risk of becoming stuck in the past. Communities in Transition was designed by the Northern Ireland Executive in 2015 to support projects that would empower individuals and groups to effect positive change for themselves and their communities. And so to this end, Pam and Cara had given up their own time to connect with an understandably cautious community. They developed creative ways to become accepted, and from those initial, sensitive, tentative steps, meaningful trust has been built. And from that, they were then able to support people that previously may never have contemplated change, never mind counselling. This story is a testament not only to our capacity and potential for change, but also to the gentle patience of the practitioner, and a reminder that the work we all do is as much art and creativity, relationship and empathy, as it is study and theory. I was just going to say that, actually. So for people that are listening, as is so often the case, I've been lucky enough to come across and meet you and the team at uHub in Northern Ireland. And that really stood out to us when we visited, what a cohesive team you all are.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, we never set uHub up to be an organisation with a management structure and everybody just working and nobody knowing anybody. It was always it was set up for Cara and I to work with like-minded people, and just the way it went, it just got bigger and bigger. And Cara and I actually had to start being mummies. And we all say we're not the best mummies, but we try our best. Good enough mothers, good enough. But everybody brings their bit, and we learn so much from our staff, and even the students and everything coming through. Our students, if you have placement with us and you're successful in your training, you always stay on with us, and that's how we've grown so big. Mm-hmm. I mean, we learn so much from them, like so much. Mm-hmm. We just love new people coming in, and what counselling is like. It's such a diverse range of people, with different backgrounds and different stories. And I mean, that all colours how we work in uHub. They bring in so much. I mean, like some of our therapists, like Martin, and he does all the role play games with kids. So he's working with neurodiverse kids, and you should see those kids. They are able to step out of the world they live in and become something and relate to other people, and actually they take the skills they learn in that game of relating with others back into the real world, and everything becomes easier. It becomes easier for them.
We'll come on to some of those services that you offer and the different things that you do. Let's do what regular listeners will understand. I always do this, and it's to help everybody get to know you, instead of me taking for granted that everybody knows you like I do. So for you personally, Pam, for you as an individual, Are you able to give us some idea as to how you ended up in this profession doing what you do? Because there's always really interesting stories for all of us about how we ended up here. And I'm not sure I actually know your story in that sense. So how have you ended up?
Oh my goodness. How did I end up here? I always wanted to be a teacher. Yeah, I always wanted to be a teacher, but life didn't go quite as planned. And I suffered a significant loss at school. I think that really impacted me. So my best friend passed away from meningitis, and it really did kind of impact me. And I didn't kind of go down the normal route of education, I would say. Mm-hmm. So anybody that doesn't go through the normal route of education, there is hope out there to be what you want to be, or what you're meant to be, I'm going to say. So I left home way too early, and had to work to support myself. Still had a brilliant relationship with mum and dad, have an absolutely fab family. And it was only whenever I was older, I started thinking I want to go to social social type work. So I started working with young people who were transitioning from special educational needs kind of schools. So schools that supported young people with additional needs, for them to transition into what isn't secondary education over here, but we have centres where young people go to, and it's they're creative, musical, but they're no longer in the education system, and it's quite a shift for them and their families. So I would have worked with them whilst they transitioned.
I see.
From the schools into the centres. And I found that my role was really more supporting parents. So I would have been talking to the parents all the time. So I still did go down that kind of social work, wanted to do social work. And I was very fortunate to be in the position where I got some funding that I could go down that route. But it was only once I started doing that, I was like, actually, there's another side to that job, which isn't really that pleasant. And also you're tied up, you're really, really tied up, and perhaps you're enforcing support rather than more of that holistic, letting, what's best for the family. Sometimes you have to enforce things that wasn't very nice. So I kind of was like, okay, this isn't what I want to do. So I went to the local college. I spoke to the guy who ran the counselling course, a man called Paul Casey, and I was like, I think I want to do counselling. And he was like, we'll start the level 2 and see how you get on. So I went to the class on a Tuesday, I believe it was, and level 2 was the morning, level 3 was in the afternoon. And I was in the level 2 class in the morning and done the first class, and I went up to him and I was like, can I enroll for level 3? Because level 2 was skills, level 3 was theory. And I was like, you're teaching me these skills, I want to know all about this. So I done level 2 and level 3, and then that was it. I done level 4. And I went into East Belfast to work at my placement, and that's where I met Cara. Well, I was actually working at the time. I was in charge of the Children and Young People's Project, because that was always my passion, children and young people. And as we know, you can't, in Northern Ireland, you can't go straight into children and young people's counselling unless you want to do play therapy or something. So you have to go do your level 4, and then you have to go and do your level 5 in children and young people. So I think I completed my level 5 and everything, and Cara actually come to work with us as the finance manager, because Cara's an accountant. And then she started studying counselling, done her placement with us, and that's how we met, and that's how uHub was formed. It was formed out of actually sitting one day and a client phoned. They weren't talking to you in a nice way, and we were like both very passionate that every person is seen as an individual and not a number. And we were just like, there must be a better way to do this. So within the week, we had signed for premises in Bangor.
Wow, you don't hang around, do you?
No business plan, no nothing. We just, what savings we both had, we were like, how much do you have? How much do you have? Okay, let's do this. And within a week, we'd signed for premises.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's funny you say about children and young people. I was actually going to say that, from those original dreams of teaching, then on to potentially social work, and the different avenues, the different places you found yourself as you work towards that counselling qualification really demonstrates, doesn't it, that that's a passion that you had. Yeah, and I know that still forms very much part of the work you do and the services you offer you across the board, isn't it, from children and young people all the way through to adults. And yeah. And so how long ago was that, Pam? How long ago was it that you and Cara put that deposit down on a
2016, May 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
So 9 years.
Gosh.
And it really, honestly, it was. My desk was behind Cara's in the office, and Cara keeps herself pretty much to herself. And because she was finance and accounts, there was not a lot of conversation because the office was quite busy. But there had been a few things happen in the office in terms of just respecting clients, And there was a very hard and fast rule, regardless of the situation or the circumstances that people were going through, that if they did not attend twice, that everything was closed. It was closed off. And I understand that rule. I understand that rule running an organisation now, why that is. But everybody has different reasons, and I think we need to hear them, before we make that you're gone. And I think it got to the point in the organisation where it was just very admin run, and the kind of clinical side weren't really consulted in anything. So it wouldn't matter whether you had a good case to why your client hadn't been able to attend. It was just right, okay, you're gone. And it was quite a cold conversations that we were hearing in the office, and we knew some of the stories of the clients behind this.
Yeah.
And we were just like, this is not the right way. And it also made us, whenever we set uHub up, we were like, we didn't want to be tied into this 6-session model. Now we do deliver 6-session models, and it makes us financially very stable. But we're very clear to the clients that come through on that project that it is 6 sessions. But we're also very fortunate to be, if those clients need service after that, they can refer into our service. And that can be done very easily because we don't hold waiting lists any more than 3 weeks. That's just our model, and it works. It's still working. We're getting busier, but we're still managing to maintain that model. 3 weeks, it doesn't seem that long whenever somebody puts a referral in and then they're contacted by myself or Lillian, perhaps the next week. And then the next week after that, they're generally starting with therapy.
Yeah. So there's not those waiting times that we know can be so harmful and so difficult for people. You're making me think, Pam, because what you're describing, I know you're talking about, you use the word models of working on the business. I suppose you're talking in a way as well about business models as much as, therapeutic models. The words you're making me think of are words that we use and we keep referring back to in our work here at the Society, and that's about our values and ethos. That's something we hold very strong and at the heart of what we do. And as the Society is getting bigger and bigger, we do everything we can to ensure we keep referring back to what those core values are that we hold dear, and ensuring we continue to try and live those as much as we can in our work. So to reflect back on you and Cara and setting out and your business then evolving, sorry if it's a bit of a rotten question, I don't know, but would you be able to help us understand for you what your ethos is, what your core values are? It's just really interesting hearing you saying about, and like you say, I understand also why, so many different services will say, if you don't come for so many sessions, then, we have to end therapy. You clearly felt intrinsically that wasn't the way that you wanted to go. So what are your values and ethos that you think that uHub represents?
I think that every person is treated as an individual, whether that's our clients or our staff. And I think very much, how uHub set out and what we envisioned it to be is very different to how it is now. And we done a massive piece of work, Cara and I, which was actually heartbreaking. Like, first time I seen Cara cry, first time I huffed for about 3 months, because we actually in that process decided that we were going to become a charity.
Okay.
And we were a social enterprise before, and we become a charity, which meant Cara and I no longer owned uHub. The community own uHub now. Do you know, uHub is bigger than Cara and I. Do you know, it's its own entity. But it was the right thing to do. But for me to let go and think that perhaps it might change, become like the bigger charities that we're aware of that work in mental health in Northern Ireland, was really frightening. I think I was like select mute, honestly, for 3 months. I could barely talk. I couldn't find the words to say how scared I was. But actually what helped was having a super board, because actually it's our board, and our board changes regularly, and we have people with lived experience, past service users, you know, and all those people are such good people, and they want to keep the values of uHub, which is treating everybody as an individual, which is being playful. Do you know, we are playful and we are curious. Do you know, we like to think outside the box. That's so important to us. And then I think we're a teal organisation, I think is how they classed it. So they're, as much as Cara and I have these labels in management, actually everybody in uHub, we're all equals.
Yeah.
You know, and we learn from each other. And yes, there has to be structures in place, because we have to report to Charities Commission, and you know, it's like we have to account for every little penny. So like there was an issue with the stamp going to France, why we were posting a letter to France, but that's actually really good. It means that, you know, if anybody wants to go and check online, every penny that comes, whether somebody's left a donation in for £1 or £100 or whatever, it's all accounted for. Do you know?
Yeah.
There's nobody in here that's been paying more than they should be. Actually, our staff probably should be paid more. We would love to pay them more, but we're not a core funded organisation. But we try to make up for that. We try to make sure everybody feels included, including their families. You know, and people sometimes come and work for uHub and do bits of work outside in other organisations, and they always come back and be like, you don't pay us the most, but it's our favourite place to work. And that is so powerful to us, because actually we are not selling a product. We're delivering a service, and the people delivering the service are the most important to us. And that is kind of our thing. You know, we need to look after our staff because they look after our clients. That is always, even from the very start, whenever Cara and I wanted it just to be about that, we imagine 5 or 6 counsellors supporting each other in a small organisation, doing some paid private work, but that paid private work will be enabled for us to deliver a free service to the community, by doing, you know, some free client work, but that has just grown massively, and we've kind of come full circle now. So we've got uHub, which is our therapeutic service delivering counselling and group therapy, and then we opened Find Help NI, which was primarily going to be a website, a mental health website, to support people in Northern Ireland with lived experience on it, but also you could go onto the website and find out about what was in your local area, find out who was working there and what was actually on, because in Northern Ireland you would get leaflets and they would be well out of date. Those services no longer run, the funding wasn't there for them. So the idea was we updated the website so people actually knew what was going on, knew a face, knew a name. Then Find Help and I started delivering some services as well, so community outreach services. So that happened, and then the next part was we opened Seed, which is nearly 2 years old, and Seed is a training school where we deliver counselling training. So it's kind of come full circle. So the people that go to train as counsellors in Seed come to uHub for their placement, which delivers a free service to the community. So this year we've got 13 students coming through, so that's 1,300 free hours of counselling in the community. And we know that those students will have the best supervisors, they'll have group supervision, they will be looked after, and we will know their work because we're training them. Cara and I train them. You know,
you're teaching at last.
we're teaching at last. I know, full circle. I know, it's quite crazy. So we're teaching them. So we know when they're ready to go into that world. We know how to best support them, and we also know the skills you need to have in the environments we work in. So we teach them what they need to be taught on the curriculum, but we also add in those skills that you don't learn that you need to know, especially to work in Northern Ireland, which is a very different setting to some places. The communities are very different, so we can prepare them to work in those communities and work with the things that come up in them. And we also, part of that is getting them to, volunteer and like sample what it's like to work with those people. Let's be real about it. I mean, if you're working in our Bangor office or East Belfast office, the work is totally different. It's not the same, and people are shocked, because some people do their placements with us and be in Bangor and stay there for a year or two, and then they'll be like, oh, I want to go and work in East Belfast, or I'm moving closer that way, I'll work there. And they're like, whoa, it's like another world, and it's 13 miles up the road. So training them is allowing us to prepare them to work in those different environments. And also, because we've worked with such a diverse range of people, you learn so much from them,
It's really interesting hearing you talk about that. I was actually recording a podcast with Linda Graham just last week, and she was saying that too, about it's very easy for somebody perhaps like me here in England to talk about Northern Ireland as a whole. And yet, as Linda and as you've just said yourself, and of course it's very obvious when you say it, of course, different places in Northern Ireland are going to be very different. And of course, that's exactly the same in England and Scotland and Wales, but we do, when we're the outside looking in, it's very easy to just blanket statement, isn't it, around experience and history, let's face it, over in Northern Ireland. So yeah, it's really interesting to hear you talk about the differences just between those two offices, those two services that you run in different parts. And just to come back as well to what you said in terms of the way not only the organisation, your service runs, but the changes you've had to make in that really struck me when you said how difficult actually it was from transitioning into becoming a charity. There was clearly a sort of a loss for you and Cara in that, on the one hand, sort of looking back at what you were leaving behind, what you'd started and what you had as envisaged, and coming to terms with the changes and, like you say, the fears and uncertainties of what becoming a charity would mean. What a brave thing to do. And it sounds like your team in that now, and now including the board that you talk about, it feels very like there's a reciprocal respect there, understanding. It sounds very democratic, and it sounds very values led, and I'm sure that's a massive part of why you are where you are now, and which we'll come on to next is that work that you do in the community. But yeah, I hate using the J word. I try and avoid it as much as I can, but what a journey you've been on, Pam. That has to be said, doesn't it? To find yourself where you are now.
It's been a really tough journey, but it's been amazing, and it still is amazing. Like just the people you meet, it's the people that shape it. No, it is the people, it's the clients and the staff and the board and everybody that shapes uHub. And I think that was the fear that if we become a charity, it's always about the uHub being financially sustainable. And it was, would we at some point be kind of pushed to that succession model, more statutory service delivery and no heart at the core? And actually it's been the opposite. It's actually been more community led. There's been more fundraising and charity events to keep it the way it is. So we, instead of what my fear was, that we would be in there doing a job, And that would be it. Actually, what we find is we have gathered a community of support, which is amazing. Do you know, we get people like all the time contacting us saying, I'm going to run a marathon for you, or we're going to do a fundraiser for you, or your kids went to our services and they're like knitting chicks for Easter eggs or nose hats at Christmas, and they're raising the money, you know, all that kind of stuff, which is amazing. You know, it's so good. But that people don't actually realise just how far that goes. You know, if somebody donates us £7.50, £7.50 is enabling us to allow somebody to come in for a session of counselling. You know, that so those young people, when they do raise £100 of something they've done in school, it's massive. Do you know, that is massive. It's life changing for somebody. Do you know, it's just. No, it's lovely. Like so, there was a big loss, but there was a massive gain as well. But at that time, you don't know what the gain is. You're kind of going into something in darkness, hoping for the best. But
it says a lot, doesn't it, as well about you and Cara. You started earlier by talking about being quite playful, thinking outside the box. And actually, it would have been very easy, perhaps, to have been quite dogged in, this is what we set out to do, and this was what our vision was, and we're going to stay on that track. But it sounds like you adapted, and you were flexible, and you were intuitive and creative enough to know that actually it's pulling us in another direction, and maybe, as difficult as that feels, maybe we need to listen to that, and maybe we need to look at that more closely. And as you've just said, it's obviously taken you down a path that's proven perhaps more beneficial for the people that you serve and the people around you. Yeah. So can we come on to, you've mentioned that word community a lot. You are absolutely embedded, as you've just described, and are so well known within your community. But what you've also alluded to, and what people, anybody listening that might have heard other episodes of this that we've recorded with people in Northern Ireland, or know of our work out there, that there are obviously some very specific challenges and circumstances that some people in Northern Ireland have lived through and continue sometimes to struggle with, and are still facing. And I know that you do some really unique work in that area. And I'm thinking particularly of the please tell me if I've got this wrong, but I think I remember from when we came to visit, is Communities in Transition, is that right? That was set up by the government. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about what that is, Pam, and where you fit into that?
Yeah, so the Communities in Transition work, it probably started with us about 4 years ago. As random as uHub is, it was started with a chance conversation with a lovely girl called Amy at a meeting, and she was there when people were asking for funding to take men who had been affected by the Troubles in Northern Ireland away to concerts and things like that by local community groups and community centres. And we were just there, and I started chatting about the work we did. And I was like, wouldn't it be actually brilliant if we were able to create a support service and work with these men, but actually work therapeutically with them. But I know that doesn't always mean getting them in to a counselling room for counselling, because you've kind of got to break down those barriers. And those barriers have been there for so long that it takes a long time to break those barriers down. So this chance conversation led to Amy being interested in the work that we did, come down, met with us, and then a few months later, funding opened up for pilot projects with Communities in Transition. And it was one of those government things that Cara and I were like, oh, do we do this or not? And we decided we would give it a go. And at that time, we put in to do spray painting. And there was a place open here at the time, and it was like BMX biking, skateboarding, men's exercise, and to run a couple of community events, and this was all around COVID time. So around COVID time, so just before COVID actually, so we put all this in, and the idea was there would be some funding set aside for counselling if the men wanted counselling. So that's how it started. So COVID happened, and everything everybody was doing couldn't go ahead, but everything Cara and I had planned randomly was outdoor events, which still could go ahead. So during COVID, then we had guys out on the streets skateboarding. We had guys out spray painting, which seems really random, but this was just to have conversations.
Oh, I totally understand. Yeah, anything just to get them out and talking. Yeah.
So families were coming out. The whole families were coming to these events. We held 2 massive ones in Kilcooley and Rathgale, which would be the 2 most impacted estates in Bangor that we were working at in the time, which then led to conversations with the men, conversations about what they might want. So that led to PT sessions. So we got PTs involved where they took small groups of men, so like 10 men, put them through programs. And we trained the guys that were doing the PT in mental health, like first aid, but also Cara done a bit of work with them, supporting them. And Cara and I would call in and meet the guys. Primarily Cara would have went, but I went down a couple of times too, which led to the most random thing, which was us being invited to go to the bonfire building, which is a big thing over here. So we have a trailer, like a horse box type trailer, and we stuck a massive gas barbecue in the back of it, got burgers, got crisps, went to the bonfire. So we took it week about because there's different groups and to make it fair. So same estate, week about, and we would go, and that is where we met the men, when they were building bonfires.
Do you mind? Can I just pause you there a sec? I just want to really clarify and check I understand everything you've said so far. So from spray painting, skateboarding, PT classes, and now you've got a horse box that you've got a barbecue in the back of to go out to the bonfire building. I just really want to check none of this at this point in time is about any therapeutic interventions, any therapeutic conversations. All you are doing, and this is a question, am I right that all you are doing is starting to create relationships and trust?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure that I fully understood that.
that is 100% it. So just getting to know them. And honestly, like the stories they would tell us, and the amount of loss they'd experienced. I remember one night being down, Cara and I were down, and they were telling us that the previous year they'd lost 3 of their friends to suicide.
Gosh.
In this one small pocket of men had lost, and this was a regular occurrence. And then they started having conversations with us that actually it would be really good if there was something on a Sunday, because what happened was the men were going out on the Saturday and they were using drugs or alcohol. And then on a Sunday, they were in a place where they weren't feeling great, but actually they were truthfully talking about what was going on and why they were feeling the way they were feeling. And that kind of developed. There's more, like I go into more and all the other things, but that developed into a men's support group on a Sunday. But this was us being invited, and that is the key. We had to be invited. So Cara and I go flipping burgers at a barbecue. I'm going to say more so Cara. And we had members of staff do it as well. And it was like the Pied Piper for the kids. The kids would all come to. And do you know what? It was brilliant. I absolutely love it. And it is community, and it was to allow them to realise that, Cara and I are just humans too. And, everybody in uHub is just humans, because people in these communities fear services like ourselves. They fear them.
Yeah.
So it was kind of breaking that barrier down. So that led to mental health support group being set up by men. So Cara and I now, we deliver like mental health champion training to them. So we bring the guys together and we meet them. So we do like every other week, and we eat pizza. We talk about mental health. We talk about what's coming up. We get them trained in assist, mental health first aid. But really we chat about the themes that's coming up in their community and the solutions that they see, and we support them in that. So that has gone on over the past couple of years. So we now have Kenny, who works for us, who's just amazing. Kenny is just brilliant. And Kenny's background is, this has been Kenny's life. He grew up in an estate in Belfast, so he knows this world. And they have a men's mental health support group, which meets every Sunday. And they all talk. They go out on walks together, they play sport together, they swim together, they go on outings together. They've actually fundraised and they have a minibus that they can take to places together. But they have they have mental health leaders in it. So the mental health leaders have mobile phones that are on shifts. So if anybody is stuck and needing a bit of support, because they're all trained now and they know what they can deal with, they know how to look after their own mental health as well, so they know when to step back. They have like this network. We've had no suicides in the time we've been working with them, and we have had a massive increase in the men using counselling.
Wow.
Massive. We've had so many come through, and we actually have we've had two of the men now engaged in the counselling training and volunteering in other groups that we run. So we have one of the guys that come through the service, actually an amazing guy, and he volunteers. We've got a Brew and Crew group, which is a totally different project. It's working with men with autism, and they meet weekly and play pool and games, and they go out and stuff as well. And one of the guys from the other group actually volunteers as a leader in that group now. So it's taken a long time, but it works, and we're embedded in their community and they're part of us, so that they have no issues in coming and knocking our door now or picking up the phone. And that's how it has to be. So it's not like, if you're phoning the GP or you phone some of the other counselling services over here and it's an admin team, they'll take your details out. It has to be very personal.
Yeah.
And that was my fear of us becoming a charity, that we wouldn't be, because I like it that when people phone up, whether it's a parent or a young person or an adult, that actually they can have a conversation with one of us, not an admin team, not put a referral in, not go, actually, if you just want to find out a bit about what counselling is, because sometimes we have these conversations on the phone, and by the end of the phone call, being like, do you know what, it's not actually counselling I need right now. Do you know, I maybe need to go and do A, B, and C, and thank you. Or actually, do you know, it's maybe not counselling I need for myself, it's maybe for my child. Or a lot of the time for us, it's not actually for my child, it's for me. I need a bit of support for me, But, the men's group is unbelievable. Like, it really, the change in these men is just...
It's such an extraordinary story. I think the patience that you and Cara and your team have exhibited to just spend that time meeting the men under their own, what's the word I'm looking for? Just meeting them where they are and where they need it, not trying to change anything, just being in their world. Like you say, flipping burgers and doing all manner of different things, and just taking that time, building that trust. And it sounds like from that, the men found their own sort of confidence to start expressing themselves more. And through that resourcefulness, that resilience, that training you were able to do with them has just then evolved and grown and enabled them to access counselling or train as counsellors, even as you've said. I mean, how amazing. And the other thing I'm thinking, Pam, is that classic thing, isn't it? That reminder that isn't just those individual men that is affecting. That is their streets, their communities that they live in. That is their own children, their own grandchildren, their own families and friends that are witnessing this, seeing these changes, and are benefiting from that. You know, what they're modelling to the people around them, that trickle down effect that's having, that ripple effect perhaps is a better phrase. And that's amazing. The word healing comes to mind, you know, for a community that, you know, I can't even begin to imagine how perhaps hurt and bruised and fragmented it might have been in the past, that there's perhaps a coming together that's happened for them. What an incredible thing to be part of.
No, it is the most rewarding work. It really is. I mean, Cara and I say that whenever it comes, we deliver training to the guys on Tuesday nights, and we're like, it's our favourite thing to do, you know. And it keeps us reminded of why we do what we do, and also why it's so important to remember that every person is an individual, every person is so unique, and not one size fits all. And that's what uHub is about, that everybody is so different, and we're not here to pigeonhole somebody into CBT or talking therapy or art therapy. We're here to meet that person, to see what they need, and sometimes it's not us, and we're happy to signpost into other organisations and even handhold and make that time to make sure that it's the right thing for that person, because that's so important. But no, the work is amazing, and we have had some laughs. Like, I mean, really, I don't get to do as much of that as Cara, but like, I know Cara has been like go-karting with them, and she's been like, what do you call that, spray paint ball thing, and like all sorts of stuff with them. And I just laugh because Cara is like, she's hard as nails. Like, I mean, she can shift big horses about. I've never seen a woman as strong, but I mean, she's so tiny. You know, she's so tiny. But honestly, just sitting with the guys and just chatting to them and seeing them now compared to when we first met them. You know, because when we first met them, they didn't have permission to talk to us. You know, we talked to those that were kind of in charge of the groups. And now they can talk to us, they can phone us, and the guys that run the groups, which are paramilitary groups, have open relationships with us. You know, they're able to phone up and be like, actually, this has been going on in the group. We're having issues with this. Can you help with that? Or could you tell us somebody that could help? So even the fact that they trust us enough to ask about another service. And we have linked in with other services, and there's a great service in Northern Ireland called Alternatives, which is they work with paramilitary groups to kind of bring them on and get them out of their old ways and into new ways, and creating community groups more positive, and they mediate if anybody's caught up in any trouble or whatever. Just working with those other groups and being able to bring other people in so that, you know, the guys do have hope. You know, for the future. And but we work with, you know, on that same project, we work within the schools in those areas, and, you know, you can see that intergenerational trauma in young people. You can see it displayed in different ways, and even the impact that they can see now trickling down, that these groups are starting to help themselves. You know, it's showing in the young people, you know, which is amazing. You know?
Especially our young boys, you know, becoming men. It's so much around that masculinity as well, isn't there? So, it sounds incredible, really incredible work. I'm sure it's been, as much as I know you've said how much, you know, the laughs have been, I'm sure there have been some very difficult times with it too, but you've stuck with it and come through it, as have they. Time is running away with us, as it so often does. There were so many other things I was going to ask you about. I'm just going to throw out there the In Touch with Autism that you do, that's funded by the Department of Health. There may be, we may have to do a follow-up podcast about that one, because I know that's something that lots of people would be very interested in. But I think actually what I'm going to do, Pam, if it's okay, is sort of bring it all the way back to the beginning. So we started by talking a little bit about holidays and donkey dating and goat yoga. And I wanted to just make some time, which I often fail to do. I always have the intention of doing this, but often fail because of time running away with us. But I think particularly because of the amount of work you do and the type of work you do, I really want to bring it back to you personally and just ask you, when you're not working, when you're just Pam and you're at home, you're with your own friends or your own family, what helps you come back to self, to take off that hat of counsellor, trainer, manager of a charity, all of these sorts of things? What helps you unwind? What helps you decompress? What helps you put all of that down just for a bit? What's your self-care?
My family and friends. Like, I'm just so fortunate to have amazing friends and family and colleagues now that I class as friends. I mean, Cara and I did not start out as friends, but Cara is, like we would say, like our term is life wife. I can't imagine life without Cara. She's so important. So spending time with people I love, like Cara and I love to go away for like a wee concert and a night away, and we do that. And we actually went on a proper full week's holiday last year, and we were in the most beautiful resort where we could have went out every night drinking if we wanted. It was all inclusive, but really beautiful. And every night we're in bed at 9:30 reading our books. And I have friends that I've had all my life, and I go to yoga with them on a Tuesday, and my sister lives at the bottom of the lane. I see my mum and dad regularly. That is connecting with my family. It's just like, I just feel so lucky to have family and friends like I have. And that is it. That is what like recharges me. And dogs and chickens and cows and all those fun things.
There's so much in that. Isn't there? It sounds like the first place you went to actually was about connections. It was about relationships. It's about people that see you as you, not just you in your role sort of thing, that you feel know you and you can be yourself with. But also there's reading in that, there's going on holiday and taking time out, and there's that wonderful grounding that animals and being in nature also provide. It sounds like you've got it all covered. Oh, and yoga. You've got all bases covered.
I know, I do like yoga. I hadn't done it I took a little break from it for a few months and back at it again, because actually you do realise it misses you. You miss it. Your body misses it and your mind misses it.
Yeah.
But no, connection is definitely connection. It is. Yeah. And like I say, so fortunate to have a lovely family. And it's not always been plain sailing in my family, and we're all weirdos. We're all weirdos, like my family, but the nicest weirdos ever. And I would say all my friends are we're all a bit weird, but I like, that is it. That is what kind of restores me, is just spending time with them. And occasionally I'll just do a day where I'm just like, do you know what? I'm putting clean jammies on, I'm staying in the house and I'm reading a book or binge watch something on Netflix. But that's generally if I've had a really tough week. Yeah. And that's generally not connected to the client work, but generally connected to some sort of horrible funding return. Not the applications, because that's Cara's bag. She's brilliant at that. But doing the returns sometimes are just like horrible.
Keep your ears and eyes peeled, everybody, because we're about to start doing some work about grants and funding, and it comes up so often in the conversations that we have, particularly with, our organisational members. So watch this space. We're sort of starting just to put out feelers and do some stuff, and hopefully that will start coming to something in the early new year. So, for anybody that's interested in that. Thank you to Pam for talking to us today, and thank you for listening in. This podcast is brought to you by the National Counselling and Psychotherapy Society, a professional home for counsellors, psychotherapists, and over 120 wellbeing organisations across the UK. Autonomy, diversity, creativity and community are at the heart of what we do. We're creating a positive space for conversations with people who share common beliefs and goals, because together, our voice is louder. If you would like to know more about the NCPS, please visit www.ncps.com for more information. And please remember to follow and subscribe to this podcast so you're always part of the conversation.